podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello everyone and welcome to the latest episode of How We're the Podcast. It's Gav and you. Join us for a little news update. There's bits and pieces going on around the world of Sunderland which we haven't covered off on the other pods this week, so we're going to have a little gander at what's going on. Joining me once again for one of these shows is Jonny, becoming a bit of a regular now, mate, aren't you?
You can't get rid of us, mate. Kicking around like a bad smell.
Yeah, we're trying to lift the mood slightly after what was possibly the worst weekend in history, and we'll leave it at that. We'll not go into any more. But yeah, there's quite a bit going on out there this week. I mean, it's international week, isn't it? We don't play a domestic game now until, who have we got in a couple of weeks? I've already forgot. Mustn't have been an important game. Is it Millwall? Yes, it is. Millwall just came back to us there. So in that time, there's a bunch of players out on international duty, 9 in total. Should have been 10, and we'll start off with that one. Poor Dennis Cirkin gets his first England U21s call-up and then gets injured against Coventry, and he wasn't listed by the club when they listed out who was away. So as we could have correctly guessed, looks like he's not going to be featuring for England. How's your luck? He's had awful luck, hasn't he, Dennis Cirkin?
I think he just can't catch a break, can he?
No.
It feels like, I mean, this season he's had, obviously a long run of games compared to what he's been like normally, but it does just feel like every time he builds up a head of steam, something comes along just to bring him back down to earth. Like, yes, I feel from, obviously on like a human level, he'll be gutted, I'm sure, to miss out, but from a footballing point of view as well, it's never a good thing when your best players are having the rhythm interrupted by constant little niggles and stuff. So the only thing I suppose is we've got to cross our fingers a bit and hope it's not too serious.
Yeah, we haven't actually heard much about it, but I think given what he was doing, I think he was holding his hamstring, his sort of hamstring thigh area. Hamstrings, best case scenario, 3 to 4 weeks. Medium term, you're looking at 6 to 8 weeks, and then longer than that, it's 3 months plus, isn't it?
Don't say 6 to 8 weeks when it comes to Sunderland players and injuries, mate. I've got too much PTSD from that already.
Well, let's say it is 6 to 8 weeks, though. That's pretty much the full season he would be out for, isn't it? I mean, your best case scenario would be coming back for maybe the second leg of the playoffs, maybe the final, and that's a big ask for somebody, isn't it? So in that time, we've got to fill that gap. I mean, Leo Hjelde is going to want a chance. Jensen Seelt came off the bench and did well at the weekend. There's no young players really waiting in the wings. I know we've got Ollie Bainbridge, but I don't know if they really see him as a viable option. I mean, Joe Anderson's been making the bench, and there's no way I would want to be playing him in tough championship games. So we are really thin on the ground in that regard, aren't we? I mean, maybe when Ballard's back from injury, we could move a 09 across, but it looks like it's basically Hjelde's position to lose now, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was just going to say 09 to me would have been maybe the natural person to move in and fill in for Cirkin, but as you say, with Ballard being injured, I can't see him moving out of centre-back at the minute. Obviously, Sealt's presumably not ready to be starting 90 every game and playing 90 minutes yet, because he could have been an option maybe to fill in for 09 at centre-half while he moves across, but yeah, I think, like you say, it's going to be Hjelde, isn't it? And it's it's a fair amount of pressure to put on his shoulders because he's done all right at times this season when he's deputised, but I don't think any of us would have envisioned him being ready for a run of games like this towards the end of the season and then potentially having to start in the playoffs. So, yeah, crossing everything to hope that Cirkin's back at least in time to have a shout of being fit for the playoffs, but
yeah,
wait and see.
Yeah, I suppose the one way to view it when you look at Hjelde is he's never had a run of games in the team. Like, he's always, when he has came in, that's been pretty sparse. He's had the odd game here and there. I think in the main, he's looked okay. He's not Dennis Cirkin. He's not Adjulise, but he's all right. He had a bit of a dodgy second half the other week, and then he came. I think he only got 10 minutes. He'd been booked. He had a couple of rash tackles, came off. But I always say this about players. I think they've all got to be given a run of games to prove their worth. And he's going to get it. If he can stay fit, he's going to get it. He's going to get at least 8 games, I would presume. I mean, hopefully Cirkin's injury isn't too bad, but let's say if it goes to the end of the season, he's going to get at least 8 games to establish himself. And it might be the making of him. You never know. I mean, I'm trying to draw positives from the situation, really. I don't think what my overriding point here is I don't think Leo Hjelde is a busted flush. I don't think he's as bad as a lot of people have made him out to be. I think he hasn't had a proper chance to prove himself. I think the one time in his career he did was at Rotherham, and they loved him there. He played left back every week at Rotherham in the Championship, and he established himself in the team and impressed. And I know that's for Rotherham, that's not Sunderland, but I do think he deserves at least the opportunity, doesn't he, to show what he can do.
Yeah, and it's the relationships with the rest of the team as well is a big thing, because even when he's had limited chances here, some of them have been in, I'm thinking of cup games where we've changed 9, 10, 11 players around. So you're playing only with other players who also never get on the pitch.
Yeah.
You don't get those, like I say, those relationships building up, knowing where people are going to be when you need to pass them the ball, the movements people want to make, getting that cohesive solidity and structure in the back four. All that sort of stuff comes with time. And like you say, he's not a busted flush in the sense that he's clearly got some talent.
Yeah.
Like it's not like he just looks completely all at sea when he plays. It's just that, again, as you said, he's not Cirkin. And so when that's the kind of hole that you're trying to fill, I think anyone's going to struggle to come off well in that comparison, just because Cirkin's such a good footballer for this level.
Yeah.
So look, I hope he does well, Hjelde, obviously, because he's going to be playing for Sunderland, so hope they all do well. But it would be nice, like you say, see him get a run of games and actually prove himself and show that he's got a future here, because it is a huge opportunity for him.
Yeah. Speaking of fullbacks, Trey Hume, he's been called up by Northern Ireland as expected, really. He's one of their best players now, most established players. I think is it Bradley, the Liverpool right back? He's injured at the minute, isn't he? So he might actually get a run in his proper position, because he normally has to play left back just to accommodate Bradley, or plays right of a three in the middle. But Trey Hume looks set to add to his 19 caps for Northern Ireland. They've got games, both friendlies actually, so no competitive action, but they're playing Switzerland at Windsor Park, and then they're going away to Sweden on Tuesday next week. At the very, I've never heard the name of the stadium, the Strawberry Arena. That's a nice ground. Nice sounding ground. But yeah, Trey Hume, he's off and out and about, and Dan Ballard obviously has missed out on this occasion, which obviously, to be honest, when it's only friendlies, I'd rather they didn't play. I'd rather Trey Hume didn't get a call-up. Chris Mepham, he got called up for Wales. They've got a couple of World Cup qualifiers. Kazakhstan next Saturday, so on the 22nd of March, he's playing at the Cardiff City Stadium, or he's part of the squad at least. And then away to North Macedonia. Bit of a weird one with Mepham, because he gets called up to the squad, every time, because obviously he's a good player. Sitting on 48 caps, but he doesn't seem to start many games. He's behind the pecking order when it comes to centre halves. I think is it Rodon and Cabango, I think, at Swansea getting ahead of him. Mm-hmm. I just think it's a little odd, but to be honest, Mepham's not playing well at the minute, I don't think.
No.
So maybe that'll probably not help him necessarily when it comes to his international chances.
No, particularly with it being qualifiers, like you say as well, because, it's different if it's a friendly. You always see bits and pieces of rotation in every international team. But for the qualifiers, you'd imagine they're going to stick with the more established partnership. But again, it might not be the worst thing, because with Ballard being injured and therefore, not going to play for Northern Ireland, not to get in a political row. The last thing you'd want to see is Mepham going away, doing a hamstring, turning his ankle, whatever it might be, and coming back, us down yet another body at the back. So, yeah, they get the recognition of being called up, but not devastated if he doesn't play.
Yeah, big one would be Neco Triantis, who's had his first full call up to the Australia squad, and he's really earned that. I know he's not with us at the minute. He's out on loan at Hibs, but absolutely ripped it up in the Scottish Premiership. I mean, they're third in the table. They've just surrendered a 15-match unbeaten run, and he's been the fulcrum of that team. I mean, all you hear is praise from Hibs fans about Neco Triantis. I'm actually really, really excited to see what he can do when he comes back for pre-season. And I never thought, obviously you have high hopes for these players when they go out on loan and you want them to do well. But for him to change position to go from a centre-half to a holding midfield player. Actually, not even a holding midfield player. The Hibs fan that I spoke to for the website, and if people want to dig that piece out from a few weeks back, they can. But I interviewed a Hibs fan, and they chatted all about how he's done there. And I asked what is his best position, and they said he actually has an 8/10. So kind of playing him behind the forward line, which really surprised me because, to go from a central defender to basically a creative midfield player is some jump. And then to do it at a decent, I mean, the Scottish Premiership gets a load of stick, but he's playing at the top end of the Scottish Premiership. He's not playing for like Ross County or Kilmarnock or something like that. He's playing for Hibs, who are a decent team. They qualify for Europe most seasons, and he's doing really well there to the point that he's managed to get himself a call up. It all bodes well, actually. It's nice to read about players going out on loan and doing well, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, for sure. It makes it's a breath of fresh air, I think, in the sense that you look at the development pathways for players, and we all rave about everyone coming through and getting games at Sunderland. But this is probably, it is the major success story, isn't it, in terms of loaning players out for development? Because obviously Mayenda went there last season and struggled, but he's proven to be a good player here. We've had other players who've gone out on loan and never done anything. So, yeah, it's good to see Nectar go and really make the most of that chance. And, as you said, to have changed position while he's there is impressive enough on its own. But to have done so well in that new position that, you've got to imagine he's being called up to this Australia squad as a midfield player, not as a centre-half. So it'll be good to see him hopefully be able to test himself out in that position on the international stage against different players, just to add a bit more kind of evidence to the idea that he'd be able to come back to Sunderland and, be considered as a midfielder rather than a centre-half, which, yeah, as you say, full credit to him for making that kind of switch, because that can't be easy after spending, probably 10, 15 years playing in one position to just up and change it like that while playing at the top level. So, yeah, really pleased for him.
Yeah. I mentioned Cirkin's under-21s call-up. Job got into the squad as well. And I was looking at the squad. It's a really, really strong team. I actually seen, I don't know who it was. It was a journalist say that it's arguably the strongest England under-21 squad ever. I mean, when you look at the talent that's in there, a lot of them players are playing at the top end in the Premier League even. And Job's amongst them. And I'm not surprised, he could have been part of that elite squad, which Matty Young's in, I think, as well. Matty Young, the goalkeeper, if people aren't aware of who he is out on loan at League 2 Salford, out of the team there. We might come on to him a little bit, actually, in a second. But Job gets into the England under-21s team. That's to be expected. But the most notable one when it comes to under-21s teams is probably Eliza Mayenda getting into the Spain squad. I think that's a real show of how well he's doing. And he's maybe went under the radar a little bit, Mayenda. But for him to get into the Spain setup, when considering the majority of those players are going to be playing for some of the top teams in Europe, like a real elite group, and a nation famed for bringing through some of the best young talent when they're ready. For Mayenda to get into that group, I think is a really telling sign of just how well he's done, and possibly maybe I don't know if this is true or not, but maybe we don't realise just how good he actually is when it comes to his age, because it's easy to forget, like he's 19 year old. Do you know what I mean? He might look a lot older, but he's 19 year old, and the way we just talked about Hibs. He was there on loan last season, didn't really get a chance there. This kid's come into our first team, and I mean, you could make an argument to say at the minute he's possibly the best of the two strikers we've got in terms of his all-round game. And, fair play to Eliza Mayenda getting into the Spain team. I think it's, again, a real telltale sign of how well he's doing.
Yeah, big show of faith in him, isn't it, from the powers that be at the Spanish setup, because this is, as we say, this is his first real season, isn't it, to be honest? Last season he never got a sniff. This season he's actually started to play some regular football, and yeah, his performances have justified it, I think. We'd all say, wouldn't we, he's been easily one of our best players this season. And when you look at the numbers of goals and assists he's putting up without being the first name on the team sheet every week, Yeah, I think it is easy to forget that he's only 19, and it's probably a decent standard that he'll be playing against if he gets on the pitch, particularly in the game they've got against Germany under 21s. Because Germany is another country where you tend to find that their youth squads, much like ours or Spain's or France, tend to be full of players who are already playing at decent levels in a lot of cases. So, yeah, great chance for him to go and keep impressing. And you never know, a few years down the line, we might be looking at a full Spanish international up front for us.
Yeah, it would be nice, wouldn't it? Other under-21s caps, Milan Alexic is in the Serbia squad, which isn't really unsurprising. I mean, he did get into earlier in the season, he got into a senior team, but he just hasn't played enough for us. I think that's been a bone of contention with some fans, actually, and probably me included, that we haven't seen more of him. Because when I have seen him, I've been really impressed with Milan Alexic, but I would hazard that he's probably been knocked down a tier when it comes to his international status, purely based on the fact he isn't playing enough. He's not played enough for us. And I mean, what's your thoughts on that? Just how much he's played recently?
Yeah, I'd have played him more. I think I agree with you that it's been a little bit strange at times. Look, I wouldn't start him every week. I wouldn't start him most games, but I think he's shown enough when he has come on. And he's been on the ball in flashes, and he's got a great turn of pace. So yeah, I certainly think that I would have liked to see more of him, but look, I don't think this is going to be a massive setback in his career, is it? Like you say, he's been dropped down to the 21s for Serbia just purely out of lack of minutes. But I also think going forward, we probably will see more of him like next season and beyond. So maybe one that we can't properly judge until we've seen things play out in the fullness of time. But yeah, I would definitely say right now that I think Alexic is maybe being a bit underused. So I'd like to see that change at some point.
Yeah, I kind of wonder whether he's rated by the manager or not. That's the worry I've got. But we'll see. You're right. In the fullness of time, it'll all play out, and maybe it's just a case of they're looking after him and getting him acclimatized. Maybe it's more just he's a young player who's moved halfway across the world, and they don't want to rush things with him. Maybe it's just that. But yeah, he'll be playing games away at Bosnia and Herzegovina and Georgia. Not sure exactly where those games are being played, but that's a bit of travelling. Managed by Alexander Kolarov as well. Is the manager of Serbia under 21s.
Might come back with a wicked free kick in his locker.
Well, both left footers, so teach him a thing or two on the training pitch. Reece Walsh, the under 21s wide man, he's away with Northern Ireland as well. They've got games against Moldova and Ukraine, and they're being played at the Belis Deluxe Centre in Belek. No idea where that is. Oh, they're also playing Uzbekistan under 21s as well. So, chance for him to get in amongst it. That means he won't be part of the under 21s team, which plays Leeds tonight, which is the other thing I was going to touch on. But that looks like it'll just be a fairly routine game, probably a very young side with the amount of players missing. Matty Young, as I mentioned before, he's away with the England men's elite group, which is basically the under 21s. Oh, sorry, the under 20s, isn't it? With England, the elite group. I said I wanted to come back to him just because since Sunderland basically threatened to recall him, he got into their team, and then the transfer window shut, and he's not been seen in their first team since. It's a bit weird, that one, isn't it? Because he kept 7 clean sheets and 10 appearances for Salford in League Two. They shot up the table. The form's totally dropped off now. He's not in the team. Makes you wonder what's going on. I mean, I'd be reluctant to loan another player to Salford, to be honest, because I don't like the way they've treated him.
It is just strange, because it'd be one thing if he was playing badly and got dropped. Okay, fair enough, that's totally normal. But for him to have been playing so well, not just not making mistakes, but like you say, 7 clean sheets in 10, that's brilliant for a keeper. And the fact that their form's just gone off a cliff, basically exactly when he got dropped. Look, I haven't looked into their team selections and coaches too much, but unless they made sweeping changes to the team at the same time as he was dropped, and maybe that's why they've also fell off a cliff, it's very, very weird to not just bring him back into the team after going on such a bad run. So, yeah, there must be something going on behind the scenes, whether it's some sort of personal relationships not right or whatever it is. It would certainly make me think twice about loaning anyone else to them in the future, because they're certainly not doing right by Young.
No, the only other call-up of note is Chris Rigg has been called up to the England U19s squad for their 3 games next week. Actually, the first game's this Wednesday, so they play Wales in Nant Porth. No idea where that is. Crap with geography. But they've got Wales, and then they've got 2 games in North Wales. They're playing Turkey under-19s and Portugal under-19s, playing at the D-side College Stadium. So if you're in that area, you might want to go and watch them. Not too far to travel. If you're a Sunderland exile in North Wales, Chester area, you might want to watch a bit of Chris Rigg. But yeah, they're playing Wales, Turkey, and Portugal over the coming week. The other thing I want to talk about today, and this isn't really news, I guess it's sort of news, but it was brought to our attention that Mike Dodds isn't going down particularly well with the Wycombe fans. Some of the tweets in response to their latest defeat weren't particularly kind. I've got one here. Andrew Stevens, Mike Dodds, terrorist football. Mike Dodds out, being absolutely shit, from a guy called Stephen Gravitt. The Wycombe Wag put on Twitter, watching Mike Dodds on the side of the pitch reminds me of that PE teacher in school who's kind of cool, and when he teaches a lesson, just sort of stands to the side and lets the game play on. And Wycombe Comanche on Twitter has also said, Mike Dodds hasn't got a clue and is absolutely miles out of his depth. I don't and will not trust the process. The lineup, subs and tactics are woeful. He hasn't got a clue. The players look disinterested. It's a shambles, a dreadful appointment. I mean, and you can't take everything you read on Twitter as gospel, of course, as we've come to learn over the last few years, but that coincides with some of the commentary I've seen online from people who think that Sunderland's form has actually tailed off a bit since he left. So it's just interesting. That kind of, both those things came into my head this morning. I was like, something to talk about there, because obviously it hasn't went down particularly well so far at Wycombe. I mean, he's not been there very long. But is it fair to say that we have suffered from not having Mike Dodds around? I mean, without me and you having insight on what goes on behind the scenes, I mean, we saw the outpouring of emotion and respect that he got when he left from the players. I mean, Luke O'Nien made a massive deal out of it with a really heartfelt social media post. It's fair to say Mike Dodds was really popular at the club, but things haven't gone particularly well since he left. And then you look at what's going on at Wycombe. He's, first managerial role, took over a team who were flying, and the sort of tail off under him. I mean, what's your general thoughts on that?
Well, firstly, it makes us wonder what is so different about being a head coach versus being the number 2. The Dodds just can't seem to get it. Like, I'm sure there's a myriad of differences. They're different jobs, but I just wonder what it is about head coaching that he can't seem to crack, because, as you said, by all accounts, the players absolutely loved him.
Is he a bit too pally with players, maybe? I know I watched the video when he first turned up at Wycombe, and they done like a kind of behind the scenes type thing where he met all the players and the staff, and he was cuddling and hugging everybody. And I think he could be in that sort of trap, which a lot of people who go from assistant manager stroke head coach to a managerial position where you're the head of the club, a lot of them fall into the same trap where they're just so used to being the best mate of the players.
Yeah. And
it's like all of a sudden you're the guy making the decisions, and you've got to make some pretty shit decisions that are going to upset people. And it's whether if you're not that type of person, you are going to struggle.
Yeah, and it's probably linked to why he didn't succeed here when he was caretaker as well. Because I remember a lot of people kind of commenting on it. It was all very Doddsy from the players, Doddsy, the gaffer, Doddsy. Maybe there isn't that level of respect or that level of, not fear is the wrong word, but like, you do have to probably, as a manager, don't you? You have to have the players be worried and scared to cross you. They've got to, your word's got to be law. So yeah, I mean, maybe there's something in that, but it also then makes us wonder how specialised was his role here compared to what a normal assistant manager would do. Because you've got to think, if he's that popular with the players and everyone's speaking that highly of him, he's probably doing things behind the scenes that maybe an assistant manager doesn't normally do. He was heavily involved with the academy for a while, wasn't he, as well? And he was a development coach, not a number 2. So I wonder whether he ended up in a position where his role at Sunderland was so suited to him because of how long he'd been here and how much everyone liked him, and he'd kind of, settled into doing all the things he wants to do. that maybe then trying to go somewhere else and translate that same ability into a different setup just isn't going to work for him.
Yeah.
Like, is he too Sunderland specialised almost, which maybe is a fate you wouldn't wish on your worst enemy, but it could be dodgy.
I feel for him, like, because I think, if you've genuinely got the ambition to do that, it must be tough when, your ideas aren't getting across immediately. I mean, he's been there 2 minutes, but the caveat to that is that he's gone into a team where they were already flying. Wycombe absolutely flying in the league, and he's gone into probably the perfect situation. Really, you're going in somewhere where nothing needs to be fixed. So yeah, I mean, I feel sorry for him, but I can't help but wonder. I mean, the thing that plays on my mind is just the suggestion that things aren't quite as on point for Sunderland as they were when he was here, and you can't just put that down to him leaving. He wasn't the glue that held all this together. We, big old unit behind the scenes, plenty of coaches, plenty of voices, but he is an influence, and he was an influence, and the players respected him. And for him to not be about the place anymore, even if it was just as that, the jovial Mike Dodds who's about and everybody's best mate, and he's cracking jokes with the players, and he's, all these things that he clearly was to Sunderland. If all of a sudden that's gone and there's nobody filling that void, it does change the mood. It's going to. And yeah, we can't help but wonder. We'll never know because we're not behind the scenes and we don't see what goes on. But I do hope it turns around from at Wycombe.
Yeah, I mean, look, if it is the case that him leaving has ended up contributing to us going on a worse run of form as well, I think that's a lesson we've got to learn, is that you can't become too reliant on sort of one guy behind the scenes in any role, really, because then, if it is the case that Dodds leaving's precipitated some of this form, we can't let ourselves get in that position again, because you never know what could... I mean, somebody could be run over by a bus crossing the street. They could take another job. They could get sick. They could, list as long as your arm of stuff that might take someone out of the role. And if we're relying too much on people that it's going to start falling apart when they leave, we've got to start remedying that behind the scenes ourselves, because, as you say, we'll never know. And probably even the people who were at the club don't know, because you can never measure the impact of someone leaving, like, scientifically, can you? But yeah, I think it's something to be wary of, I think, because with our model, everything should be about, no individual's too important, you recruiting and selling and buying and loaning and all that jazz. Yeah, I would want us to make sure that we don't end up getting stung by this again in the future, if that is what's happened.
Yeah, 1 win and 5 for Mike Dodds at Wycombe. Well, considering they've been second behind Birmingham, who are walking the league.
Yeah,
Wrexham have just getting ahead of them. I mean, they've got a game in hand on Wrexham, but obviously we've been there before. I think probably the most obvious example of this recently would be Lee Johnson, where we were up there, but you can sort of feel the change in the whole perception of the team and the way everything's the momentum isn't going up. It's probably tailing off a bit and dropping the other way.
Even last season, you forget how long we hung around the top 6.
Yeah.
Even well after Mowbray had gone and even after Beale had come in for a while, we were still, from the outside looking in, like, oh yeah, Sunderland are in the playoff race. And then obviously cut to the end of the season, we were near enough as far off it as you could be. So yeah, we know that better than anyone.
Bit of luck, you might get sacked in the next few weeks and bring them back.
Come back
for the playoffs, and then we'll be able to assess the difference. Last little bit I want to round off on, and while we're on the subject of people who've left and getting a bit of stick, don't know if you've seen the stuff with Elliot Embleton at Carlisle or not, but getting a lot of stick off the Carlisle fans for apparently telling the fans to fuck off as he left the pitch at the weekend. Carlisle, rock bottom of League 2. Looks like they're heading out of the Football League. I mean, let's talk a little bit about Elliot Embleton and stuff like that. Big move for him to drop from Sunderland to Blackpool, then down to League 2 to play for Carlisle. I think he signed a 3-year deal for Carlisle as well. So that's a big commitment from them and from him to say, well, I believe in this type of thing. But Elliot Embleton could be, for all intents and purposes, in 5 months or so, he could be a National League player. Which just to me blows my mind, because he played such an important role in getting us to the Championship. Yeah, he has a player who came through our academy, been unlucky with injuries, but it makes us sad to read that, to be honest, that he's kind of, he's ended up at Carlisle anyways, makes us a little bit frustrated just because I think his talent is better than League Two, particularly struggling League Two. And then to read that the fans are turning on him, he's turning on the fans. He's still got practically 3 years left on his contract there. Just doesn't sound great for Embo, does it?
No, and it feels like a very last chance saloon type of move as well, doesn't it? Like, if it doesn't work out here, you'd struggle to see many other Football League clubs taking a punt on him unless he stays and is part of the team that gets them back up and back into League Two if they do go down. It shows the importance of timing as well, doesn't it, in a career? Because, I mean, really, if you think about it, he possibly actually played his best football at Blackpool that season he was on loan, helping them win the playoffs. So you could, in a way, argue that we never saw the best of him in a Sunderland shirt, full stop. But even then, like you say, like injuries just at the wrong times, then that all snowballs, doesn't it? I remember he was on loan at Derby, wasn't he, when he got another bad injury, like taking a set piece in a 21s game or something like that, or in training. Just like little things like that. Like all of a sudden, a player who's, by all accounts, and from what we've seen, got plenty of ability, more than good enough to operate top of League One, maybe Championship, but things go against you. Then before you know it, like blink of an eye, career's nearly done. Which it's a shame to see, isn't it? Because you don't want to see it happen to any Sunderland players, and particularly involved in getting us promoted, but. Also, if he's turning around and telling the fans to fuck off as well, I might suggest his days at Carlisle are numbered, because I feel like they're going to outlast him rather than the other way around.
Yeah, I saw Jordan Jones was also getting stick as well. There's a blast from the past. Another player who was at Sunderland. Last little bit, and I did mention it before, but if you listen to this on Monday, under 21s play at Eppleton tonight against Leeds. £3 a ticket, under 16s and students price of just £1. It is also being streamed on the club's YouTube channel, so save yourself the bother. Watch it in the house if you're going to watch it at all, because Eppleton is a nightmare to get to. It's freezing, and it's on YouTube, so just stick it on the telly. But it'll be interesting to see who plays in that game, as I said before, because quite a lot of the youngsters who've got international recognition won't be available, so might be a chance to see some of the under 18s. I like the sound of Finn, and I'm going to butcher this name, Finn Gerigusian, is it? I've watched him a few times now, and since he come to the under 21s, he's been playing quite well as well. But he's another one. I don't know if he's away on international duty or not, because he plays for Armenia at under 19s, I want to say, or under 18s. But another good player coming through. Chance to see the next group of talented young Sunderland Academy prospects strut their stuff against Leeds tonight. And if you listen to this past Monday, well, you've missed the game, and you probably already know the score. Cheers, Johnny. Been good, mate. Nice catching up again.
Aye, cheers, Gav. Always a pleasure.
Yes, thank you to the listeners. We've got loads coming up this week. We've just capped off a great interview with one and only Malcolm Crosby. Chris did that interview, which should be out later in the week, talking all about his time in charge at Sunderland, that famous FA Cup run in 1992. Some of the players he didn't get on with that he signed, which is interesting, and other bits and bobs. So that'll be really, really interesting. If you haven't listened already to our Coventry review and Coventry reaction podcast, we did a review with Kieran Brady, the one and only Kieran Brady, another of that sort of era in the late 80s and very early 90s, playing for Sunderland. Kieran Brady, always insightful. If you haven't heard that one yet, make sure you catch up with that. Later in the week, we should also maybe have another couple of interviews. I believe Rob Mason's going to join us on the pod. And there might, and I'm not going to reveal this one yet, but a player who played for Sunderland in the last playoff campaign that we had, that we won, which is the only campaign we've ever won in the playoffs, but the one and only. We'll keep that to ourselves for now, because I haven't actually recorded it yet, but should have that on the blower too. So, as you can tell, loads going on. We're going to keep these coming thick and fast. If there's anything to talk about, we'll be here to keep you informed. So if you're enjoying them, keep letting us know. We've getting plenty really good feedback on social media and all the rest of it on the forums and things about the new format of the podcast. So great to know that people are tuning in and listening. The listening figures are through the roof. That's what we like to see. And hopefully you're enjoying it and you're enjoying the frequency of these podcasts. So leave us a rating on Spotify. I noticed that people have been doing that, which is nice. Rate the podcast. I think you can do it on Apple too. So give us a nice 5-star rating. Make sure you tell all your mates, all your family, everyone you go to the match with that you listening to this new podcast, and it's worth subscribing to. You'll be doing us a favour. That just leaves me to say adios. We'll be back probably with another one of these later in the week, me and Johnny. We'll see you then.
This podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.